Wisconsin I is at the State Democratic Party Convention in Middleton. We're talking to one of several potential candidates for governor in 2018, Matt Flynn of Milwaukee. Matt, welcome back to Wisconsin I.
Good to be here, Steve.
We are surrounded by new generations of Democrats. You have been very active, but maybe it's been a few years since then. Who is Matt Flynn? Introduce yourself to these delegates.
Well, we've got a very good reaction. First of all, there are a lot of delegates here who are active for a long, long time, and I've stayed active. I was the chair of this party for 2 terms.
When?
I was John Kerry's, well, back in 81, 85.
Okay.
I was John Kerry's co-chairman of his primary campaign, along with John Richards, and I was on Hillary Clinton's committee, and I've been active in every presidential race and for the party, and I've spoken around the state in Oshkosh and Kenosha and Saukville and Madison. So I feel very, very good about where we are right now.
Well, how would you characterize where you are? Do you intend to run, or are you still laying down stones and benchmarks to tell you?
This is not a formal announcement, but I'm very strongly considering it. The reaction here has been superb. We were given a hospitality suite from noon to 2, which is, a very unusual time, and we had a large, large crowd, people waiting to get in. So a lot of people, old friends that said hello, and other people who've seen what I've written about politics and what I've said before, and they were very supportive.
Yeah, your last newsletter said impeach President Trump. Now, you're a Milwaukee attorney.
Yes.
Any special practice, general practice? What, you're with Quarles and Brady?
I'm with Quarles and Brady. I've done commercial litigation. I've done a lot of First Amendment media litigation to get cameras in courtrooms and get reporters into information. And I've done every kind of commercial litigation.
Okay, so what are the stepping stones to winning the nomination for you August of 2018, assuming you're in?
Right. August of 2018 is very close. It's like 14 months away. And I think we have a very, very good shot of doing it. For one thing, it's going around the state and speaking and telling them my ideas and organizing. Scott Walker has really injured this state in the last 6 years. He's changed its culture. He's essentially beaten down wages by breaking labor unions and transferring it to his donors. And I think that they need a fighting governor in the form of Pat Lucey or some of our former governors who really restore prosperity to all of Wisconsin, not just to Milwaukee, Madison, and a few cities.
Talk to me about what you consider to be the most egregious achievements of Scott Walker and how you would attempt to reverse those in a campaign.
There are a lot of egregious transgressions by Scott Walker, but I'll give you a couple of them. Passing right to work, I would reverse that. Passing Act 10, I'd reverse it. Attacks on the University of Wisconsin, withdrawing funding, putting a little back in, getting rid of statutory tenure, attacking the mission statement, I'd reverse all of that. Public education, I'd stop the emphasis on vouchers, put it back in public education. Medicaid, he turned down almost $1 billion. I think that's immoral. People die because of that. I would bring that funding back. There's virtually very little that he did that I wouldn't reverse.
How would you pay for the state's transportation future, which is a logjam in the next state budget? What would a Governor Flynn recommend?
I would not rely on borrowing the way they do. They're kicking the can down the road, and other people are going to have to pay more in debt service. Right now, the debt service is well over 25%, and it's going up. We can't do that. We have to have revenues. Now, one thing that I'm familiar with that a lot of these people aren't, back in the not too distant past, there was price fixing among road builders, and some of them went to prison. Now, there are a lot of good road builders, and I applaud them, but I would keep a sharper eye than anybody on bid rigging in that industry, which drives up costs. Secondly, I'm not a fan of any tax increase, but we have to have revenues, and whether it's a combination of fees on gasoline, in other words, an increase in the gasoline tax. I do not like tolls. I do not want to see us be like Illinois, but we'd have to pay for it. I understand that, and I would go to the people and say, look, you want roads? We're going to pay for it. This isn't a socialist state, a communist state, where we kick it in the future. This is Wisconsin, we're going to pay for our roads.
We haven't had a gas tax increase since 2006. We haven't had an increase in the registration fee since 2008. Time to raise either of those, both of those?
I wouldn't make a commitment to either one, but I would say this: we're going to fund it out of essentially a user tax. The reason there hasn't been an increase is they froze it back in 2005, 2006. I think that was a bad idea because it rose with inflation and it paid for the roads. We have to have a dedicated funding source. We can't be raiding it for social programs. It has to stay with the roads, but borrowing is not a good idea. And not treating the roads is not a good idea. We're going to lose our tourism industry, and industry's going to leave the state.
What's at stake for the city of Milwaukee with the transportation funding issue?
Well, what's at stake with the city of Milwaukee, the state legislature has interfered with local control. It rolled back the registration fee, and there are places in Milwaukee you drive down, you break an axle. You know, Center Street, a lot of streets that I drive on, you break an axle. Literally, quite literally, if you went too fast. That has got to stop, and we've got to repair the roads, but not just in Milwaukee. Statewide, we're not alone. This is true everywhere in the state.
Democrats in the Joint Finance introduced two things I want to ask you about. Free tuition at the tech colleges. Good idea, bad idea?
I think we should have free tuition at the tech college, and I'll go one step further.
The cost on that, Matt, $555 million GPR over 2 years.
I understand. There's not only that, but we have free public education to grade 12. Bill Gates' son could go for free to grade 12. Why are we limiting it? Why not grade 13, grade 14 for that kind of thing? And part of the way they're going to try to fund it, or the way I would fund it, is they want to cut the tax rate for the wealthiest people in the state in half, practically, from 7% to 3.75%, and it'll be a slight tax raise for people in the lower echelons up to about 25 or 30 grand a year. That's not right. It just is not right. We got to pay for what we want. We're a progressive state, and I mean that in the good sense. We're a civilized state. We should pay for it.
Democrats in Joint Finance also introduced free tuition at the 2-year UW colleges. Good idea?
That's a good idea as well.
$82 million over 2 years,
yeah, that's
GPR.
Fine. This is a public asset. The way you build wealth is to build public assets. And what the difference in philosophy is, the Republicans are stripping money out of public assets, which is like eating your seed corn. The more educated the workforce we have, the more likely we are to get businesses in the state.
What's your vision for Wisconsin if you're elected governor 4 years out? You'd be elected in 2018. Wisconsin in 2022 would finish that sentence.
Would be prosperity throughout the state, not just in a few counties, every county in the state, a workforce that's motivated and not demoralized, reinstatement of the right to collective bargain for public employees, get rid of the right to work law and so forth, but more importantly, ethics, cleanliness. We used to have the cleanest state in the country. They got rid of the Government Accountability Board. They tried to get rid of open records. I represented media for a long time. Channel 12, the Hearst Corporation. I know what it's like to try to get information, and we become a closed state in information. I think that's wrong. Cleanliness and prosperity.
Why has your party not been able to beat Scott Walker 2010, 2012, 2014? 2010
was a tsunami year, a hurricane year. We were beaten all over the place. In 2014, I think that Mary Burke did, she ran a strong campaign, but I'm not Mary Burke. I'm very different, I'm very aggressive, and I'm not going to put up with what the Republicans do. I'm going to take it to the Republicans, and I think you're going to see something different in 2018.
Milwaukee Mayor Barrett challenged and lost to Walker 2010, 2012. How would you answer those who would call you just another Milwaukee Democrat?
Tom Barrett is a good guy, good mayor. In 2010, he was running against a hurricane. I mean, nationwide, the Democratic Party was getting hit for reasons that weren't his problem. In 2012, people didn't want to recall somebody just over an issue. I get it, but I'm different from Tom Barrett. He's my friend, but I think you're going to see an aggressive campaign, and a campaign that's going to take him to it really hard in every county in the state. I have relatives in Monroe, Hayward, Random Lake, and I did in Jump River and Ladysmith. My sister taught at Mount Scenario College. I know this state, and I was a state party chair, and I got all over the place. This is going to be a statewide government.
Speculation that Scott Walker might raise 35 to 40 million to win in 2018. How much could you raise? Could you be comparable?
I can be competitive, but I'll tell you this. He's going to raise it by selling the state's soul. He's going to raise it from the Koch brothers. He's going to raise it from the Bradley Foundation. He's not raising it. They're lending it to him because they get it back. They get back more than that in money. The Republican Party is a donor party. That's all it is. The Democratic Party is the People's Party, and I don't have to raise $40 million because I'm not going to sell my soul, but I can raise enough to get around and get my message across.
Okay, we talked about free tuition at the tech colleges. The price tag, according to the Physical Bureau, $555 million over 2 years. Tell me how you would change the tax structure to pay for some of the priorities like that.
I don't think that for one thing, he turned back $1 billion in Medicaid and $800 million for trains. I would go, look, I was in the Navy, and all through the South, there's space centers in Florida and Texas. There are bases all over the place. We get nothing, and that's fine because we're self-sufficient. The minute we get anything, he turns it down, suppose for holy pictures for delegates from other places when he wants to be president. And I would say, no, we're going to get some of our federal taxes back. We are going to take that Medicaid money. We are going to take train money, and we're going to get money into our treasury. And I'm not going to lower the tax rate on the wealthiest people in the state.
But the Trump administration has made clear they want to put limits on Medicaid spending. They want to dial back some of the priorities, including in the environment. Great Lakes funding, for example. How would a Governor Flynn interact with the dialing back of national resources from Washington under the Trump administration?
Governor Flynn would be oil and water with Trump. I put out my monthly blog urging the impeachment of Donald Trump yesterday, so let's put that right on the table. I think he sold our country out to the Russians. I think he's taken money from the Russians, and our foreign policy has been given over to Vladimir Putin, and I'm tired of it. So the fact is, I'll work with our senators, Tammy Baldwin and Ron Johnson, and I'm going to say, get out there. We have the Speaker. We have the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, and he can't do this? I'll tell you what, Ryan will be in my office, and it'll be very simple. You get out there and do the job for Wisconsin, or I'll personally campaign in Janesville and Racine against you and put somebody in there who can.
You will need Democrats in the legislature, the Assembly and Senate, to enact some of these things, to go back and overturn Act 10. Democrats have been losing legislative seats. Talk to me about the state of your party right now, building to 2018.
Much of it is due to reapportionment, which has been held to be unconstitutional. We have an illegitimate legislature right now. If it had been apportioned on votes, we would have had a majority 2 years ago, a slight minority now, and so I will fight very hard to get that overturned. But in 2020, as governor, I will veto any Republican nonsense, jury-rigged kind of reapportionment, and it'll be turned over to an impartial panel, and we'll take our chances on the battlefield.
So you want the Court of Appeals ruling to be upheld by
Absolutely.
the U.S. Supreme Court to redraw the boundaries
Yes.
by November 1.
Yes.
What's at stake for your party if those boundaries are redrawn?
If those boundaries are redrawn, we will have a clear majority. In the present climate, with fair boundaries, and you can give any Republican candidate against any Democratic candidate, all of our projections show that we do win that legislature.
What should the state minimum wage be, Matt?
It should be a lot higher than it is right now. You know, some people have talked about $15 an hour. I remember I think that should be an aspiration for the state. Is that likely to happen in the short run? No, but I'll leave you with this. Henry Ford paid and he was a labor buster, bad guy. He paid his workers $5 a day, double what they were getting. And all of the other industrialists said, Henry, how can you do that? He said, I want my laborers to be able to afford to buy my cars. So unless you pay people, they can't buy goods. So I would like to see $15 an hour, and I will fight. I know the Republicans will fight it, but you have to set goals to get it up.
As a member of the Hillary steering campaign for Wisconsin, did Hillary lose Wisconsin or did Donald Trump win it last November?
I don't think Donald Trump won it in the sense that you think. When the Russians hacked I'm not making excuses. People accuse Hillary of going on an excuses tour. I'm not an excuses guy. I've been hit, I can get up. But I think that Hillary was a very, very fine candidate and would have been a very good president. And I'm not interested. I've won games, I've lost games in Little League and football. I've won cases and lost them. I don't make excuses in the past. So I think, Trump had his message, it got out there, people went for him. Okay, next time's another round, he's fighting Matt Flynn, he's not fighting Hillary Clinton.
Final question. Why did your newsletter say yesterday that the president shouldn't be impeached? The number one central reason?
Treason. I'm a Navy veteran. He has taken money from the Russians and he's busted up the European alliance. He's busting up NATO. He's told the Chinese he'll get permission before he can talk to Saigon. He told our Navy to stay away from their islands. What the hell is he doing? He's destroying the World War II order that from Truman on, through John Foster Dulles, through Eisenhower, Kennedy, Dean Rusk, Reagan, Schultz, all these people. Is he smarter than all those guys? No, he's not smarter than all those guys. I got to get him out of here. I want our European alliances and Asian alliances respected.
Matt Flynn, a potential candidate for governor in 2018. Good to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
Thanks.